Thank you for joining us here tonight. You might want to address. Okay. If we could have your name and address, please.
My name is Sally McLeod Miller, and I live at 7 Christopher Street. My property abuts the applicant's property, presently known as the Randwood estate. I will be directly affected by commercial or residential development at this site. I have lived at this address for approximately 15 months. I chose this home and location with confidence that it would remain a residential neighborhood because that is what the town's official plan states. The cohesive character of residential areas shall be preserved and improved. It is not intended for spot zoning. There is no compatibility between this application and the existing residential zoning of 144-176 John Street and all abutting residential properties. I reject this application of an amendment or change to the town's official plan and request for a zoning change from residential to commercial. I reject the credibility of the application. I do so after lengthy investigation and inquiry, after lengthy discussions with members of council, regional council, and the planning department. In other words, I reject it from an informed assessment. I have viewed the site plans, both original and revised, dated August 3rd. Unfortunately, I was not aware that there was another revision, September 21st, and I have to say that I'm disappointed we didn't have a chance to look at it. The elevation drawings, the full application on DVD. I have walked the subject property. I have viewed the survey stakes at the back of my property and know firsthand the setback inconsistencies of what is marked on the submitted site plan and what is before my eyes. My husband, Nicholas Lane Miller, has met with the applicant and their architect. We, along with our neighbors at Christopher Street, and it is Christopher Street for the record, not Court, invited council and the planning department to our properties to view from our perspective how a 10-foot culvert over 1 Mile Creek will harm, and what a 20-foot high wall of the distribution and service center, which is what all the site plans have said until today. It's now being called a expansion of the coach house. I'll still refer to it as the distribution and service center. What will it look like 17 feet in front of the middle of this covered creek? I want to thank Jamie King, Andrea Kaiser, Dennis Dick, Dave Lepp, George Lepp, Maria Boku, Jim Collard, Willie Walker, Barb Weems, and Leah Wallace for taking their time from their busy schedules to witness what direct negative impact this proposal will have on the Christopher Street property owners. I've written letters asking pertinent questions. I have not received any answers. I submitted this letter, right here, stamped and received September 14th, 2010, as part of my official statement. That was 1 year ago, and I have not received an official response. Not one answer to any of my questions. In my letter, I state 5 reports are absent from the application: a neighborhood impact study, a noise and pollution study, an impact study on Parks Canada, their neighbor, an impact on site-approved but not developed room occupancies. Last count, there were 8 existing hotels with approved rate expansion, but none have broken ground. A business feasibility study. Is this an art center or a wedding facility? Is it fractional ownership, as the DVD suggests, or is it purely hotel nightly rentals? What is the nature of the business? We don't know. The name has changed from Romance Country Inn to Romance Inn and Art Center to the now registered Romance Inn, Inc. The Art Center has been dropped on the registered trademark name and their domain name for their website, romanceinn.com. Perhaps this is because only 15.9% of the building's square footage is designated for art. Of the 122,360 square feet to be developed, only 13,000 square feet, or 3,000 square feet of the coach house, and 10,000 square feet of the distribution and service center is allotted to art. And of the 10,000 square feet of the distribution and service center, it is noted on the site plan that dual purposes of art and maintenance shall share that space. We do not know the percentage breakdown of said purposes. Is it 50% art, 50% maintenance in this building? Or is it 80% maintenance, 20% art? We don't know. We need to know. If the premise of this rezoning and the changing of the official plan is to provide a world-class art facility, wouldn't the square footage allocated to art be the most relevant measurement? We need a business feasibility study where it states the purpose of this application. On further evaluation, it is clear that statistics submitted in the application are dated and thus irrelevant as pure information. This leaves the submitted application incomplete. Number one, the traffic study, conducted in November, the slowest month of tourism. This is unacceptable and needs to be conducted during the high season from June to September. Number two, the room occupancy rate study, conducted in 2008, almost 4 years ago. These are stale and irrelevant statistics. It is completely irresponsible to suggest that these numbers reflect today's economy. Further, the application criteria is incomplete and dated. There is no grade component to construction, to materials, to operations. There is an opportunity to build state-of-the-art grade buildings. Approximately 122,000 square feet that could be the envy of Canada. When I sat on the Toronto 2008 Olympic Bid Committee, we insisted that all development was to use green technologies. That was back in 2002. 10 years later, is there no expectation on the part of this council, planning department, and community to be environmentally responsible, to be leaders in good planning and development? To give up such beauty and heritage of a residential property and not ask for anything back like environmental stewardship is troubling. Without a green build and operation mandate, this application is incomplete. Further, the application is incomplete because there are discrepancies with regards to the floodplain of 1 Mile Creek. A tributary of the creek rests at the foot of Christopher Street homes. It does not appear on the applicant's site plan. I noticed today it does for the first time. It has not been considered. It exists, as the councillors and planning department who visit our backyards can confirm. It is where they propose to place a 10-foot concrete culvert. Finally, the quiet retreat-like location referred to in their application and marketing campaigns exists because of residential zoning. There will be nothing quiet about 100-plus rooms, a 500-person banquet hall, a 250-person restaurant, an outdoor wedding pavilion hosting DJs and bands, potentially every night from June to September and to 1 o'clock in the morning. A 120-car underground parking garage, spillover above ground parking, service and delivery trucks. We still don't know where those service trucks are going and coming from. We still don't know if there's a traffic report that talks about service. We're not interested in GPS direction. We ask the question about service trucks. Mechanical noise from air conditioners, rooftop fans, the potential for 1,000 guests to be strolling the grounds. In closing, I ask for council's help. Without the stated impact studies and new current statistical data, both vital components of due diligence and due process, this application must be denied. I support the existing residential zoning of the property and support the future development of residential units. Thank you.
For joining us.
And members of the council. My name is Brenda Parks. My husband Brian and I live at 5 Christopher Street. Our back property line directly abuts the Rand estate in the area of the Coach House, building number 3, and the Devonian House, building number 2. Obviously, this or any development on the Rand estate will have a major impact on our lives. I'm opposed to the application for rezoning from residential to commercial. I would ask that council in its deliberations consider the following. The current proposal, other than the few changes we've just been seeing today, is for all intents and purposes identical to the proposal that was the subject of public information meetings 1 year ago. During the past year, the planning department, council, and/or the applicant have had hundreds of calls and written deputations concerning the size and scope of the project. However, the applicant continues to insist that in order to make this a viable commercial enterprise, all of the components must be included. I therefore believe that council must consider this proposal as presented. It should not be the responsibility of council to now enter into negotiations with the applicant, such as, we will grant rezoning if this building is removed or this parking lot changed. If this application is an honest representation of what the applicant believes would be required on this site, then council must consider the entire proposal and reject it. I do not believe it is council's, secondly, I do not believe it is council's responsibility to ask itself the question, if the applicant does not get the rezoning, what will they do with the property? The applicant is a business person who has made a business decision to purchase a residentially zoned property. They have made an application for rezoning, and it should be considered on its own merits. I do not believe that council asks itself with every application, what will happen if we don't approve it? Number 3, I believe that this proposal does not fit in the town and specifically on this site. This is a proposal, as we know, for 106 rooms, 200-seat restaurant, conference facilities, events pavilion, roadways, and parking lots. The total acreage of the site is 13.29 acres. However, the applicant has stated that he intends to preserve 60% of the site as open space or landscape area. This means that 122,360 square feet of buildings, including 94,420 feet of new construction, roadways, parking lots, and service areas, will be squeezed onto 5 acres, 40% of the site. I will cite just one example of the danger of rezoning this property from residential to commercial. Commercial zoning would encourage applicants, such as this one, to propose something like the Special Events Pavilion. This is a 1.5-story, 4,889 square foot building, which includes outdoor terraces, a kitchen area, horse carriage turnaround, banquet hall, concert hall, and service area to meet all of the needs of this type of facility. This pavilion is proposed to be erected 170 feet from our property line, with nothing other than roadways and a service area between our property and this building. There is no buffer which could ever overcome the noise, pollution, light pollution, service truck noise that this would create. I also noticed that a T-turn is indicated on the drawings for service vehicles at the back of this building. The constant beeping of service vehicles is in a direct noise line to our property. I strenuously object to the developer's measurements on the site plan, which attempt to blur the impact of this development on abutting neighbors by measuring distances from various components of this proposal to our homes, not to our property lines. So it would seem that they have chosen not only to ignore floodplains, setbacks, and buffer zones, but now property lines mean nothing to them. I would finally like to say, Mr. King, I appreciate all that you have done to make this public forum as fair as you can. The residents of Christopher Court, numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, have all signed a petition objecting to this rezoning, and I hope that you will consider our plight. Thank you.